Welcome back to Boom, 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 Jarrett Gillett, you're a I always think it's important to try and remain calm after victories like the one at the weekend. I see it as my role within the Arsenal community to bring a sense of order to the chaos, to ensure we don't get too worked up. It's a long season, lots of football to play. Nah, we're winning the quadruple, lads. Ryder Cup, Tour de France, Crufts. What a day Sunday was. Big Gabby versus PGMOL, Voltamada, Joelinton, and the entirety of the city of Newcastle, is it? Oosh, have that, son. A massive 3 points at a very, very difficult place to go, and somewhere we have really struggled in particular in recent years. If Arsenal are to win the title this season, that game at St James's Park could end up being seen as definitive, the day we won it. One of the defining points of this season, maybe of this era. And I haven't stopped smiling since. And Joelinton, if I ever catch you, son, you'd kill me. Look at me. But you know what I mean. I want to get into the numbers and detail of what we did on Sunday because I think there's something there that could hold the key to the title this season. But I can't lie, it was stress, wasn't it? I moved house this week. I genuinely think that Newcastle game was more stressful than the entire 3-month process put together. Cooking in my new kitchen that I'm unfamiliar with was the only thing that would have prepared me for the anguish of this game. You know where I'm going with this. And cooking food here isn't exactly easy when we don't know where the forks are right now, and the barbecue was left like this by the previous tenants. So that's why I thank my lucky stars for HelloFresh. And have I got an offer for you? I'm drowning in boxes right now, but there is one box I need more than any other. The one HelloFresh delivers straight to my door with pre-packaged, fresh ingredients for absolutely elite meals at just a fraction of the price you might think. I'm in my DIY dad era right now. I don't want to be wasting time shopping, finding ingredients, portioning, none of that stuff. I need to get writing my apology templates to my neighbors for screaming at the TV on a Sunday afternoon. I'm busy. Joking aside, this move has been stress, and that's where HelloFresh has been a game changer this week. I've had chili glazed salmon with sticky veg, honey harissa chicken wraps, and quick and easy teriyaki pork. Unreal. And next week, you're on to an absolute winner as well. There's Mexico-style spiced honey prawn tacos, sweet and sticky Korean-style chicken, lamb and pea pasanda curry, and so much more there to choose from. Scan the QR code on screen and save yourself time, energy, and money with HelloFresh. And if you use my code DIFFKNOCK50, you get 50% off your first box, 20% off the next 4 boxes, and free dessert for life. And free dessert for life. Come on, this is Christian Mosquera in food form. What would Mikel say if he saw you eating rubbish food for extortionate prices with terrible ingredients? It's embarrassing. Is a disgrace. So get cracking with HelloFresh. Dinner time made easy, baby. We back. On Sunday, as well as cursing PGMOL, I also found myself thinking, this feels unfamiliar. Arsenal go somewhere, it looks like it's heading down the pan, and we win it late. I know it has happened, but just in the big games off the top of my head, I can't really remember it happening. Martinelli 23-24 versus City, maybe? But even then, we were drawing, and it wasn't the 90 plus 5th minute or whatever it was. Now, that feeling isn't, or wasn't, spoiler alert, evidence-based. I've literally just felt in the past, and knowing Arsenal fans, I know you guys have too, that this Arsenal team's biggest strength is probably throttling teams, dominating teams, but not necessarily turning games around. And also, maybe the later a game goes, the less likely it is that this Arsenal team scores. Every team has its characteristics. I'm not bashing the team. We have had some amazing moments. Reece Nelson, of course. It's just not really who we are. And I saw a stat post-game from Squawker that got me thinking. After equalising in the 84th minute, the Newcastle game was the second latest that Arsenal have ever trailed in a Premier League game and gone on to win it. And you know when you read something that's meant to be a positive and you're like, is that good in the history of the Premier League? But look, turning a game around is turning a game around. It doesn't matter when it happens. And also, my head was on absolute Pluto. At minute 81, I was literally asking why I even bother with the sport. So, is it true that we just don't do this? And much more importantly, how much does this skill actually matter when it comes to winning titles? Is it really what champions do? Transfermarkt has a useful little tool that collates points from losing positions in the Premier League. It records how many times in a season a given team went behind, and then how many wins, draws, losses, and points they get after being behind. For example, our total points this season here is 4 after going behind against Newcastle, City, and Liverpool, and getting a win, draw, and a loss. To answer the question about the character of this team, I look back at the big picture numbers under Mikel Arteta from 2019-20 to 24-25. And in terms of getting points from losing positions, pure totals, Liverpool have racked up 32 wins, City have 23, and Arsenal have 19 in that period. In terms of draws from losing positions, City had 11, Arsenal had 17, and Liverpool had 28. That club. But that's big picture, and say, for example, you've gone behind more than anyone else, as Liverpool did in nearly half of their games in 22-23, it kind of skews the numbers. So to get a clearer image, I divided how many total points Arsenal, Liverpool, and City have gained from losing positions in every season since 1920 by how many games they actually went behind in during each season, thus creating an average points salvaged in games you've been behind in per season score, or probably easier to say, a comebackability score. Patent incoming, don't you dare copy that, I will sue. I've rounded here and there, but for Arsenal the numbers are on screen, and the average for the 6 seasons overall was 0.9. If you remove the outlier in 21-22, it's 1.0 exactly. For Man City, their average was 1.1, and Liverpool, predictably, were the highest of the 3. Remove their outlier year in 22-23, they're at 1.5. Now, 0.9 to 1.4 doesn't sound like a lot, but over the course of a season and over the course of multiple seasons, it stacks up. If in some bizarre simulation you went behind in 38 league games and you were working at getting, for the ease of maths, let's do 1.0 points in those situations versus 1.5 points, Arsenal would end with 38 points and Liverpool would end with 57 points, a 19-point swing. So you can make a case that while Arteta has been here, Liverpool have been half as good again as we have at getting points from losing positions. And that's who we're up against, and that's a problem. But Billy Carpenter said something the other day, which I'm definitely guilty of, and I love. Be careful of looking for things in football because you'll usually find them. We're looking back a long time here to 1920. I included it to get a wider sample of what a Mikel team is like, to see the trends, and also because our image of what a team is isn't built in one season. But in recent years, the gap hasn't been that big. Ultimately, Slot's Liverpool, which is who we really need to worry about right now, actually went behind 6 more times than us last year, but only had 2 more wins, and on average gained only 0.2 more points from losing situations, which takes 15 games to show up as 3 points. So to conclude this bit, the isolated skill of turning games around, there's not much in it. Much as it might feel that way, as it certainly did to me at times watching Arsenal. But when I was researching, something stuck out to me that made me realise that maybe this gut feeling is based on something. Liverpool had 9 draws last year, but in 8 of them, they were behind at some point in the game. Against us, Newcastle, Fulham, United, Forest, Everton, Villa, and Palace, they managed to get a point having already been behind at one stage. We had 14 draws, but in 9 of them, we had the lead, and then we let it slip in some way. Brighton and City, yeah, we got the Reds, but we did let it slip. Liverpool at the Emirates, Chelsea, Brighton again, Villa, Everton, Brentford, and Palace. We came from behind to rescue a draw, air quotes, only against United, Fulham, and ironically, Liverpool at Anfield. And with the way those games played out, the winner ruled out at Craven Cottage, for example, the time of the season they were played, they weren't exactly booster games for the morale. So the case may be that Liverpool are only marginally better at gaining points from losing positions, but when they do, in recent history at least, psychologically, there is a difference. It's probably more consistently felt like a good thing, like a point gained rather than points dropped. And you can't tell me the way we dropped points last season had no emotional impact. So, numbers. How do we take this information forward and use it in the right way in this title race? And it's the psychological aspect that I want to focus on here. It's hard to quantify and it's a bit more subjective, but this part is the booster or the killer, as we've all probably felt. And not only that, it's asking what the impact is of turning it around late, live on Sky Sports when the world is watching and all that stuff. And for this Arsenal side, that hasn't really been who we are. The numbers do kind of back this up. In 24-25, Liverpool scored 46 goals in the second half of games. Arsenal scored 36. and City scored 31, if anyone's still counting. Liverpool scored 16 goals from the 75th minute onwards. We scored 12, which would rank us 14th. And if we're being harsh, if we remove, for example, Rice's to make it 5-1 against Palace, or Waneri's to make it 5-1 against City, or 4-0 against Ipswich, you can start to pick through it. 22.6% of Premier League goals in general came from the 75th minute onward last season, and that's a consistent trend, but only 17% of our goals came late. And in the last 5 seasons, the eventual Premier League winners have scored, on average, 16.4 goals from the 75th minute onwards. Arsenal's average is 13.2, and having grown year on year up to 23-24, stagnated last year. So do we need to get better here? Not by loads, but probably yes. Entire seasons can be defined by 1 or 2 late goals. Don't we know, Leandro? I'll never be over it. I never will. We could say a goal is a goal whenever it happens. Who cares? But late goals just do have a psychological impact. There was actually some research done on this by a Dutch university in 2020, the University of Groningen, publishing a paper called Psychological Momentum in Football in the journal Science and Medicine in Football, where they studied professional footballers and what happens after late equalisers. The conclusion was that professional footballers' psychological momentum was better when their team scored a last-minute equaliser. So that's for all of you guys who need a peer-reviewed study to tell you the sky's blue. But we knew that. We know that. And when the game calls for it, I think we can be better here. So, does Newcastle represent the tide turning? Can we expect more late shows? Do we need more late shows? And could we do with it even just for the psychological benefits? Let's hope so. I mean, for my heart rate, I'd rather win it in an easier way. But I'm confident in saying that Newcastle, based on winning games late and turning them around, does represent a bit of a line in the sand. Because A, it proves to this group of players they can win it late. We can't coast off that Reece Nelson inertia forever. Half of them aren't still at the club. But B, the manner in which we did it showcases why, if we needed to do it again, I think we could. Because this wasn't luck. And I think we now have a blueprint. Some games leave scars for a long time. As I've said before, that 4-1 against City at the end of 22-23, I think genuinely gave Mikel Arteta nightmares for about 12 months after and dictated his transfer policy probably a touch too much. But sometimes results leave residue in a more positive way. That win against City in the Community Shield in 2023, that Real Madrid win over 2 legs, I think this game could be the same. This was a game, no doubt, that we rush Saliba and Odegaard back for last season. Absolutely no doubt in my mind, they would have played 90 minutes because of the way the game played out. And the knock-on effect of that for future games would have been huge too, by the way, and rarely gets spoken about. For example, what level might we have seen from Ben White had he not played on half a hamstring for 2 years? But in this case, we have the depth, so they could be rested, come on, and barring a few moments, play impeccably and make the difference. Saliba, for me, while deeper on the pitch, I actually think Mosquera is showing him some stuff in terms of putting his foot on it, passing through the lines, delaying his pass and so on, is just so clutch in terms of stepping in, winning it high, and keeping us ticking. I actually thought we were marginally better in the first half, but you can see here from the field tilt, i.e. the share of final third touches, what happened second half. We stayed higher for longer, and that was the key. That is down, in my view, massively to Saliba and Saliba being fresh. And that was the switch that Mikel wanted. Mosquera is great over the shoulder, but I think you can pass through him a bit easier. This gave us a choice. And then once that was in place, it's about what you do with it. And what a cameo from Martin Odegaard. In these areas of the pitch, setting the tempo, Odegaard is just absolutely mustard. He frees Rice to go higher. He allows our fullbacks to bomb on. He's so good at setting that final third tempo and sustaining attacks. Here, we're looking to break through the block. Odegaard drops in, attracting 3 Newcastle players, and Saliba receives in the space he's created. He runs behind Osula, then drops off the side of him, using his momentum against him. He turns to receive off Saliba, and now he's free because he's used the space as Newcastle reset, so he can turn and play. Watch how their line drops back 10 yards or so, simply because he's in possession. He plays down the left, and it leads to the corner that the first goal comes from. That may all look like a simple pass and receive, but he knows exactly where the spaces are there and how to use the momentum of his opponents against them. Sorry to reference that meme again, but this isn't by accident. And when the ball's coming out to him off the second phase of corners, he's not just lumping it straight back into the mixer, panicking like I was. He's giving his team a second just to reset, as you can see here. He knows that pass is going to Marino, just needs a second before it goes in there so as to commit the defenders and ensure the box players can find their feet again to go and attack the ball. Superb pass for Gyökeres at one point as well. Who else in our team sees that pass? Eddie Howe said what he said about him post-game for a reason. And it all actually counted. Pre-assist for the Marino goal. And of course, gets the assist for the Gabriel goal with that decisive impact. But also, he could have done it earlier. What about that reverse pass to Miles? I actually think Miles should do better with the pass. And if he did, we would all be talking about Odegaard. I will never stop banging this drifting to the left drum. He's coming onto the pitch in the 82nd minute. We're 1-0 down against Newcastle. And he has that impact. No one can tell me this guy can't contribute at the very highest level for Arsenal. But again, the key part is you can have that impact because you're fresh. If we're able to put Mosquera in or Eze or not play Rice for a second half or whatever it might be, then my question is this. Why can't we expect to see this kind of impact from potentially pillars in our team late in games again and again? Why is this not encouragement that if those small margins are there and we need to win more games like this, we can? And it's also repeatable because Mikel is now switching it up far more. He's going for it. There's a different approach when chasing games now. I need a bigger sample than a few games, but I am seeing new things. Saka inside a lot more. Trossard just off Calafiori inside. Eze in a freer role. Mikel deserves a lot of credit for his substitutions. And again, doing something he's rarely done before, taking risks. Odegaard for Zubamendi, Marino on for Calafiori, and Trossard to left back in inverted commas. Where's the risk-averse Mikel we once knew? Small sample size, but it's exciting. We had 2 new starters in Eze and Gyökeres who combined to take 10 shots between them in Arsenal's highest volume shot game against top half opposition since, ironically, we faced Newcastle in the Cup at home with 20 shots. This shot-shy team is changing, and all of this is repeatable. And all of this is repeatable. Dad joke. Does a title-winning team need to win this way sometimes? I think so. Have we done that enough in the past? Based on the numbers, probably marginally no. Less so than I thought, but probably still no. Is it sustainable to rely on this? Ask Liverpool. I don't think so. But especially in a title race against this Liverpool side, developing this skill, I think is so important. I'll be totally honest, I don't love playing on those margins, but I love the psychological lift it gives. And you can see it with Liverpool. But do we now have the minerals, the blueprint, and the squad to go and do that again at some points this season when we need to do it? I think yes. And you can debate the numbers and its importance and whatever. The fact is, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, the XG, the stats, the field tilt, the final third entries, all that stuff pales in comparison to a big game like that winning in that way. This is a platform. Our captain on the day, Star Boy, said it himself. It's a statement win, and I couldn't agree more. There's always a certain air of inevitability around title winners, and I think we can begin to start to develop that ourselves. Oh, you're only inevitable on corners?
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Before we go, just a reminder to scan the QR code on screen and use my code DIFFKNOCK50 to get 50% off your first HelloFresh box, 20% off next 4 boxes, and free dessert for life. Come on. And if not for you, then buy it for your local Bruno Guimaraes. Gives him something to do rather than celebrating throw-ins and complaining about towels. Thanks so much for watching. If you like The Different Knock, you can support us on Patreon and get ad-free early access to each video for just £3 a month. Or for one-time support, you can buy us a coffee. Links are in the description.